Hello and welcome to Above the Curve. I'm your host, Andrew Shrout. I'm here with Brad Nelson. And Todd Anderson.
Jazz hands.
Yeah. And we are gearing up for the Invitational that's coming up this weekend in Columbus. In fact, by the time you guys are seeing this, we are already there.
Yeah, Brad probably snoring next to me, super loud.
Cuddling.
Maybe. Hopefully. Oh, man.
I know nothing about any of this.
Yeah.
Both of these two looking for a big finish, but we have some players that put up some big finishes of their own this last weekend. So let's get to the winner's circle. The Standard Open this weekend in Providence was taken down by Ross Merriam. This is a name that if you've been following the Open Series at all, this is a name that you are probably already familiar with.
Yeah, he. If you actually shave off his beard, he looks like a baby. And that's why he grew the beard, because everyone called him Ross Babyface Merriam. That's not true. I made it up.
I was
but
gonna say, like,
if you did though, I've seen him without a beard before, and
I haven't. Yeah, I'm picturing it now. Okay, Ross Babyface Merriam.
Yeah.
We're starting the trend right now.
No, only if he shaves the beard.
Well, okay, fine. All right, Ross Bearded Face Merriam took down the tournament with Mono Blue Devotion.
Maybe he will shave the beard off though, because he won the tournament. Unlike.
Are you guys ready to talk about actually how he just crushed a Standard Open?
Yes. Okay.
Can we go to that now?
All right.
Okay.
Mono Blue's back, baby.
He did, in fact, crush a Standard Open with Mono Blue Devotion, a deck that had kind of fallen off the radar.
Yeah, I don't know why. Nothing changed. It's still just a very good deck. People just stopped playing. I don't know why.
I don't know how much it fell off the radar either. Like it does show up on Moto. Like there's a lot of people that play it, but it just was not breaking the top 16s of any of the Opens.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a product of people just not playing it as much, or I actually had a theory that a lot of the players who used to play Mono Blue Devotion actually switched to Burn when it became more popular.
It's the worst theory I've ever
Why?
heard.
It's a different kind of aggro deck.
Because why would you switch decks when a good matchup shows up? You would just continue to go
Yeah,
with
I don't
good
really
matchup.
see the connection
Yeah.
there. But
I don't know.
I do know, yeah, from covering Opens, I definitely know that there is not as much Mono Blue Devotion just in the field as one would think there would be.
No, because it's a deck that gets hated out, and that's just the thing. A lot of the hate has moved away, and a lot of like these little aggro decks that punish black decks have come out to play, and that's really why Ross, I think, picked up this deck, learned how to play it, and executed a strategy this weekend that was flawless.
Yep, he really did, and a big congratulations to him for taking that down that Standard Open, picking up one trophy.
Yes.
And he came within just a hair's breadth of picking up trophy number 2 this weekend.
Oh, I can think of a person that was sweating a little in that
little
finals.
bit, a little bit.
I think 2 actually. Dave Shields and Jerry Thompson.
Basically 2 winners from the Legacy Open. The first, of course, the trophy winner, Dave Shields, took down the tournament with Death and Taxes.
Yeah, I hate that deck so much. I don't know why. It's a tax on my soul every time I play against it. Thalia, Wasteland, Rishenport. These aren't fun.
Sure they are.
Why would you want to do that to me?
They're fun for the person playing them.
Are they?
Oh,
I've never seen a person play Death in Texas who enjoyed
Legacy's
themselves.
the greatest format in the world where, you know, it's the only format where there's a deck that doesn't play Brainstorm or combos in any way. It's just actually white little creatures, and people are like, this is unfair and not fun.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, this is just not cool.
Oh,
I
no,
would much rather
I
get
didn't say it was
Ad Nauseam
unfair.
Tendrils on turn 1. This is stupid.
Ad Nauseam Tendrils way more fun.
Yeah, of
probably.
course.
Nah,
Turn 1 Embercool, that's cool. That's awesome. But Thalia, I do not want to deal with Thalia Rishenport. That is just unfair magic.
Yeah, Death and Taxes, totally okay by me. Obviously
Yeah.
okay by Dave Shields. Probably okay by Ross Merriam, in fact. Yeah, this matchup, one of the most lopsided matchups I think in recent memory.
Oh yeah,
for a Legacy
I
Open
thought
Finals.
Jerry was going to have to move over and
absolutely.
have a co-partner.
Yeah, I think everyone in the room was assuming that Ross was going to take this down. For
Except
those
one
who haven't,
person.
Sure, except for Dave Shields. For those who haven't played this matchup on either side, it's what, 90-10?
I think worse.
Yeah.
I mean, you say all these numbers like it's set in stone, but I've never met an elf player who did not fall to Umezawa's Jite. So.
All right.
That's true.
That's fair.
The deck has one card and some swords that are good in the matchup, but no, he ran real bad in that.
He did, sure. I mean, some things went Dave's way, but yeah, huge props to Dave for basically slaying Goliath there, matchup-wise, and taking down a trophy. He found the way, and of course, again, big congratulations to Jerry Thompson, who's
for
maintaining his double win on the
He
weekend.
did lose one thing though, because Jerry was didn't want to watch the match. He didn't get to watch an actual amazing top 8. Like that, the finals was awesome, but so was the semis and the quarters. Like that was some of the best top 8 content I've ever seen from the Open Series.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, this Legacy Open this past weekend in Providence, so much fun to watch. Every single match that we got to show on camera in the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals, just back and forth, epic swings. Great Magic. We're actually going to put the link to the archives of that in the article. So check it out. It's down here.
Just scroll down after the video's over, but finish watching the video first.
Don't scroll down yet, but it's there. It's there when you're good and ready.
I mean, you can scroll down, that's fine. But what I want you to do once you get there is, I actually tried this once, and I have a number, and I'm not going to tell it yet because someone's just going to say they beat me. But I want you to go to the archives, pick the Dave Shills matchup in the finals of the Legacy Open, and see how many clicks from suggested videos it takes to get to kitties. Not lying. This is something I've done before.
Yeah, Brad really likes cat videos.
Yeah. So
well, it's just how many. It's what is it? The degrees to Kevin.
I think it's like 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, 6 degrees separation. It's how many separations from anything to cat videos on YouTube.
Yeah. That's so it's like 37 clicks or.
Yeah, way under.
Way under? Really?
Way under.
Okay.
It's kitties.
I figured you would get like stuck in the loop of Magic videos.
No. You get out.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, before we get sidetracked looking for cats. Let's focus on another player that actually had a lot of success this weekend. Jim Davis posted a top 4 finish in the Standard Open with a really interesting blue-white control list. We're going to take a look at that list.
Whoa. There was another winner this weekend. CVM top 8'd.
Oh, sure.
That is locking him for the Players' Championship. He is going to be our second quarter points earner for the season.
That's fair enough. We'll be congratulating him, I'm sure, next week as well, but he deserves 2 weeks worth of congratulations. So yeah, Chris Van Meter locking up that Season 2 invite to the Players' Championship. Big props to him.
Hopefully.
But props as well to Jim Davis. Let's get to the breakdown. Jim Davis is a man who hates it when there are permanents in play.
Fair enough.
And to that end, he built a blue-white control deck with 3 main deck planar cleansings. Todd, how do you feel about this card?
Well, good friend and fellow versus video aficionado David McDarby absolutely loves him some planar cleansing, and literally every invitational that we go to together, he always has like a blue-white, like sometimes splashing red deck built, just trying to play like Darksteel Ingot and planar cleansing. And honestly, I didn't really expect it to ever do well, but Jim Davis proved us wrong this past weekend. And planar cleansing, big game against the John Monsters deck that CVM's been piloting over the last couple weeks, doing really well with. And planar cleansing just punishes those decks. If you can survive until turn 6, or sometimes turn 7 because your land comes into play tapped, then planar cleansing is big game. It's really good against a lot of decks in the format. Everyone's just trying to build bigger and better board states, and when that's the name of the game, planar cleansing is pretty huge. So,
all right. Now, the concession that Jim has to make by playing planar cleansings, of course, planar cleansing will destroy all of your own detention spheres and vanishing lights. So, in order to make room for these planar cleansings, he had to cut detention sphere entirely.
Yeah, and his weekend was going really good until the resurgence of mono blue that I don't think he really added in variables for.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Planar cleansing does not kill Thassa.
Nope.
It does not kill her. Oh man, that's so bad.
I mean, he does have a few answers for it, right? Like he does have.
He had Deicide main deck.
Yeah, he had one Deicide main deck, and as well as another one in the sideboard.
Yeah, so I mean, you do have answers, but like that's not enough for like biding of Thassas and multiple, the early creatures. And planar cleansing is very good against a lot of the other decks, like mono black, and especially the black decks that are splashing their own. Banishing Lights or Abrupt Decays. Like that's the real reason that he's transitioning away from Detention Sphere. But I think that's actually going away. So even though this deck looks cool and awesome, and I really like it, I feel like if it came out 2 weeks ago, he would have had enough like shelf life.
Yeah, that's probably true. But I mean that's standard for you, right? Like you got to pick your spots.
For sure.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was interesting about the deck, he actually doesn't have that many win conditions, and it's feasible that if he gets Thoughtseize a few times, like he just loses the game. And it was interesting to see his deck that was kind of centered around planar cleansing, not really want to play Elixir. I feel like the goal of this deck is to just always hit the reset button over and over. Like sometimes your Elspeth is not going to get there, so like. Not having the Elixir felt strange. I think it would be pretty par for the course to actually just cut down to one Elspeth and just play an Elixir just to kind of give you that long game edge. This deck is fighting for the long game, and I think you want as many ways as possible to win the long game, and Elixir being a very obvious one of.
Yeah, the main deck, a lot of odd decisions in the main deck, and actually a lot of interesting choices in the sideboard as well. Jim had access to renounce the guilds.
Oh yeah, which is insane when you don't have detention sphere in your deck. Yeah, that card's gas.
Oh yeah, and it's like I think that card is like best against the Jund monster decks because only the Planeswalkers, the cards you care most about, are multicolored, and if you're able to have 2 mana up when they play a Xenagos, you can play it in response to making a Satyr, which will then kill the Xenagos.
Right.
But it is kind of embarrassing if you tap out for a Jace or something, and then your opponent plays a Xenagos, and then makes a
well, then you just have to wait 2 more turns until you planar cleansing.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And take all of it.
Yeah, they can always feed a Satyr to the renounce the guilds. Luckily, the rest of your deck can handle a random Satyr reasonably well.
I think one big problem with the deck is that it can't normally fight something like Obsidian either, and having access to Renounce the Guilds against Obsidian and Blood Baron decks is pretty
There's also another card that beats Obsidian in the deck too.
An excellent answer to Obsidian and an excellent answer to the Jund Monster Menace, which has been stalking around. Jim Davis has Reprisal in his sideboard. How sweet is that?
Yeah, actually it was awesome, but my favorite thing about Reprisal is that it is a great answer against Pulkranos, Mistcutter Hydras, Obsidots, any of the big monsters that are being played. But after I got to know Jim Davis's deck, I've been playing a lot of Magic Online, and a lot of people have been moving to his deck list where now I have to attack with another creature to make sure that I play around Celestial Flare and only make 3/3 Mistcutter Hydras, because I can't make bigger ones. But it's working, it's doing the job. But it is a card that now that people are going to play it, it's going to get weaker, especially because its best job is killing Mistcutter Hydras at any time. And if you know to play around it, you still can just make a 3/3, and that's something they have to deal with. But for the most part, I think it was genius for him to play that. Like, he pulled a lot of triggers this weekend, and they all worked out. So, I mean, it's props to him for finding a very good deck list for this week. I'm super impressed with it.
Yeah, for sure. Jim Davis clearly had his finger on the pulse of Standard.
Yeah.
Made a lot of good reads and a lot of good decisions.
Only one man had a better read.
True. Yeah, not quite as good a read as Ross Merriam, but we can't all be Ross Merriam, unfortunately. So yeah, two players that definitely, again, have a finger on the pulse of Standard, and we're going to take a closer look at Standard ourselves. The Standard has really been kind of creeping up on us. We've been discussing what's going on with Standard exactly. We're going to discuss that in more depth in the Soapbox. Thanks to Ross's performance this weekend, Mono Blue Devotion is back on the map.
I mean, I'm not going to thank him for that. I'm not really a big fan of the deck.
All right, well, because of that scoundrel Ross, then, Mono Blue Devotion, definitely a thing in Standard again. So what does that mean for players preparing for the Invitational?
Well, that means a lot of the cool decks that you've been seeing pop up are not good anymore. We've been seeing a lot of Selesnya decks showing up, mono red variants, and red white burn. So red white burn is going to get a little worse. The Sandy Dog MTG, if anyone knows him from Magic Online, he's been playing these red aggressive decks with Boris Reckoner and Fnatic. It actually took second place, losing to Ross in the finals this past weekend. That deck's going to start doing worse. And all these things that prey on mono black when it's dominant are just bad now. Even the Blood Barons that black decks are splashing, the Detention Sphere-less blue-white control decks aren't a thing anymore. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to go back to Detention Sphere. I know it looked cool, I know you wanted to play it, but you're going to lose to Thassa and his Biden.
Or you're also going to have your planar cleansing countered by a judge's familiar, or you just have to wait another turn, I guess. But like, I don't know. I feel like we just had the same conversation 7 months ago. Like, blue, just started dominating right after the Pro Tour, and then we built our version of like Mono Black Devotion that ended up winning the Grand Prix in Louisville thanks to Brian Brown Dewin. And then it just sort of started chaining from there. Monsters pop back up, even though it started at the Pro Tour and started to get more popular.
I think you're missing a very important deck in Naya Control.
Oh, yeah.
I do feel like you're missing probably the most influential deck of all time.
Of all time.
Of all one weekend.
Brad's going to let you finish, but not in control.
It's really interesting to see just how cyclical this has really been over the last couple of months. It's really great to see a standard format that is actually refreshing over time. Like, it just constantly corrects itself. People start skewing their decks to beat certain things, and then they get punished the next week for it. And it's really hard as a deck builder and as someone who plays so many tournaments to just get continually destroyed tournament after tournament in Standard, because it is so difficult to really put your finger exactly where the pulse of standard is going. And I would say that Ross Merriam really hit it out of the park by going all the way back around to the very beginning. That was Pro Tour Theros, where Mono Blue Devotion won the tournament, and now we're just seeing exactly that. It's come full circle.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, he played like Hall of Triumph and won Gale Rider Sliver. Thank you, by the way. I've been saying, why aren't Mono Blue players playing that for like 7 months? And it's just really funny because
same conversation.
Yeah, it's just funny that it's true. Like, the core archetypes in this format are always staying the same. If anyone plays a different strategy, it's usually just a flash in the pan. I remember, like, every year I've played Standard, especially in the last 3 as a deck builder. Thank you, Jerry Thompson, by the way, for making me a deck builder. I just have to get the shout out since he's coming back.
Yeah.
But ever since that, like, every month or so, the formats shift. Sure, there are decks that stay around, but they lose their ability to be dominant in the format. And it'll take, a very long time for something to be great again. We saw, Flash decks and Reanimator decks always staying consistent, but everything else, and Jund, of course, but everything else would shift and it would change the metagame, whereas now it doesn't really change the metagame. The same 5 decks stay at the top, they beat everything else, and they consistently, like, will lose to one deck 1 week, and then for the rest of the time be dominant again.
Yeah, it's really cool to see, because the more people skew their decks to beat certain archetypes, then they eventually end up losing because of that change. Like right now, all the Jund Monsters decks, all of their removal is red-based, and so Master of Waves just never dies unless you get to Monstrous Apolchronos. And it's just awesome to see now that that deck is back. It's going to be fun to see how people change their decks to beat Mono Blue. And I think like the black decks are going to go back to being heavy on Bile Blight, since that kills like every creature in the deck except for Thassa, because honestly, what kills Thassa.
And it also helps against the Hall of Triumph too.
Yeah, which is cool. And I also really like the Mono Black should probably go back to Grey Merchant of Asphodel as well, as opposed to Blood Baron, because Blood Baron is a giant joke against Mono Blue Devotion. I don't know who says otherwise, but I've had a lot of people like really fight me on that, and they think that it's like actually good against them. But,
I mean, it is very good. You attack into a Thassa and you gain 4 life, and you fill up your graveyard. You'll get Threshold eventually.
Yeah, but no, it's gonna be weird to see the shift back, because I think that anyone who plays Mono Black Devotion, they're going to want to try to still splash a color, and I just think it's incorrect now.
I completely agree with you. I think the straight Mono Black versions are just the best right now. I mean, you will have a tough time against the one splashing Blood Baron. Like, you are a little bit behind, but you're going to have your Devour Fleshes, you're going to have your Lifebane Zombies, and you're going to have to be able to fight anyone playing Mono Blue. I mean, we know at least 2 people are probably playing Mono Blue at this tournament.
Sam Black
and Ross
Merriam.
Yeah. And I think the deck will be getting a little bit more popular, because a lot of people did like playing that deck.
Yeah.
And it is well positioned right now. People are playing all these green-based decks.
Yeah. If nothing changed from last week to this week, Mono Blue, a great choice. But if you want to try to beat Mono Blue, you cannot play the same decks you played last week. We saw, as Brad said earlier, Jim Davis playing Planar Cleansing, and that was a great call for that metagame, because Jund Monsters was big, because all these green-based decks are trying to just put a bunch of giant idiots into play, or planeswalkers into play, and kill you with them, and over time that's going to happen. But having Planar Cleansing in that metagame was perfect. But now you just have to have Detention Sphere, because you have to interact with these Mono Blue decks early, and you saw Ross Merriam just handily defeat Jim Davis 2-0, even though the games were long and the games were good. But traditionally, these blue-white control decks with Sphinx Revelation have been very good against Mono Blue Devotion. But if you build it the same way as Jim Davis, I just don't think that's going to be the case anymore.
Yep.
Okay. So you guys have been saying that the same 5 archetypes, kind of the same core big decks of the format, have been with us for what, 7 months now?
7, 8 months. Yeah.
Do you guys think that possibly there's a lack of innovation to blame there? What about cards like Eidolon of Blossoms or Prophetic Flamespeaker, perhaps? Are there some engines we just haven't tried yet?
I actually do think that there's an Eidolon of Blossom deck that's good right now, but it isn't the engine. It's actually just a resource that it uses to gain card advantage, which is Mono Green Devotion. It's been a deck that's been doing really good on Magic Online and really hasn't jumped over to real life, but I think that's just a problem with the lag that you end up seeing from Magic Online to real life. So I think this weekend is going to be one where we're going to see a good amount of Mono Green Devotion, or at least it popping up. But the real problem, though, is these cards are role players. They're not engines. Theros, along with Return to Ravnica block, had amazing core strategies and amazing card engines and powerful spells and a lot of big monsters that are just ahead of the curve. I mean, the standard format really is the first time I've ever seen every single 1-drop either adds mana or has 2 power, every 2-drop has 3 power, every 3-drop has 4 power, and every 4-drop has 5 power. And then every 5-drop has haste. And so, like, the format is just...
Sure. No, that's spot on. No, I agree completely.
And so, but what happens because of that is you can't durdle. You can't just sit around and try to draw a bunch of cards and try not to interact with opponents. Every deck is streamlined to do its thing very quickly. And if you, like, keep note, which I do every format, the games are over on turn 6 or 7 more often than not. And every format prior to that was turn 8 or 9 in Standard. So because of that, the consistency gets destroyed, so you have to be able to be fast, a little inconsistent, but very powerful, and instead of trying to like interact with your opponent, you find the one turn to throw a wrench in the plans. Other than that, you just play big things that kill them. So cards like Flamespeaker and Eidolon of Blossoms like aren't really that great unless you're playing against highly disruptive decks.
Okay. We've been talking a lot of theory, but let's get down to the nuts and bolts. We've got a really interesting board state for you guys in the learning curve. Brad, you took Jund Monsters for a spin on Magic Online this week, and you came across a pretty tough decision.
Yep.
Set it up for us.
All right, so I was 3-0 in a daily event, and I was really looking for those 3 QPs that were relevant, so I really wanted to win this game. And how to do that would be dealing 15 points of damage in the next 2 turns, because I'm going to take some damage. I'm pretty sure that the last card in his hand is a Lightning Strike, and it's best to play that it is because I ended up, my gut was correct. So just assume that that is a Lightning Strike, but it could just be a bluff. But our opponent, what he's not bluffing is the 4 creatures in play, including a mutable, against our lonely old Polo-Kranos, Sylvan Caryatid, and our, our own mutable. We do have a Putrefied Hand, we do have a Gorklan Rampager, which will help us dealing lethal damage. But the decisions are, how do we find the ability to kill him in 2 turns and play around literally everything, which is possible, but you guys just have to figure that out.
So I think the first thing I would do...
Whoa. We got to let the audience figure it out for themselves.
Is play the forest.
Okay, all right. I'll let you guys have a spoiler. Jon Snow, and that's how the season ends.
You can't say that. What are you doing?
Why not?
Brad, some spoilers are okay. Some spoilers are not okay.
Okay, well, I did play the forest.
All right. So yes, above the curve spoilers, Brad starts by playing a forest. But after that, it's up to you guys. Ball's in your court. Talk back to us in the comments. Let us know how you guys would play out this turn. The Star City Games Open Series featuring the Invitational comes to Columbus, Ohio as part of the Origins Game Fair this weekend. Be there if you can, but if you can't, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, Matthias Hunt, Nick Miller, and myself will all be there bringing you all the coverage.
There's also somebody else that's going to be much more important than all of them there.
Oh.
Get ready for only having 7 places to make in the top 8 of every invitational because Jerry Thompson is back. The best player
so
in the
happy.
invitational. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
for anyone that didn't know, Jerry was part of the show back in the day, and he's finally back, and I haven't seen him in 8 months.
Yeah,
That's so long.
Yeah.
That is definitely a good point. Tune in if you want to see Jerry Thompson, the Jerry T himself, back in action, slinging some spells. And if you can't get enough of us, tune in to the live coverage on SCG Live. We will have Legacy and Standard metagame breakdowns. But until then, we're all curved out. For Brad and Todd, I'm Andrew Trout. Thanks for joining us.